Hello, I'm Dr. Anjali Bhatawdekar. I'm a pediatrician.
Hello, I'm Dr. Manoj Bhatawdekar. I'm a psychiatrist. In this series on parenting, we have been talking about food and food habits of children, and we started talking about obesity last time, if you remember. Well, obesity has certain genetic causes, certain hormonal causes, but more importantly, the main cause of obesity in modern life is a poor lifestyle and poor lifestyle management. So, lifestyle which consists of too much of food and too little exercise and stress. So, this is a combination of these three factors which affect the lifestyle adversely and cause obesity.
Let me tell you something which I myself have experienced during my medical career. About 15 to 20 years ago, I was doing the medical examinations of all the students from three schools. These three schools belong to one single institution. Now, the difference in these three schools was that the first one was an English medium school in which affluent children from affluent families were attending this school. The second one was a vernacular school in which children from middle class or slightly lower class families would come. And the third one was situated a little distance away from here. And this school mainly was attended by children from lower socioeconomic status families. During these examinations, I made some striking observations. The school in which lower socioeconomic class students were attending, this school hardly had any children with obesity. There were children with malnutrition or vitamin deficiencies in this, which we needed to treat. The vernacular school, which was from a middle class families, in this there were no obese children, at least till say 6th or 7th standard, but there were hardly any malnutrition or vitamin deficiencies also. But after the 8th standard, some amount of obese children were seen. The important observation was that in the English medium school, in which children from affluent families were attending this school, the incidence was obesity was there right from preschools also. Though it was a very small number in the initial stages, like till say about 6th or 7th standard, later after 8th standard, this incidence rose remarkably. I started thinking about this phenomenon and what are the causative factors leading to this. Then I realized that obviously the lower class students, they had no access to high calorie foods. They were just having enough to sustain them. So there was no excess food and hardly any faulty food habits in them. The vernacular school, which had middle class students, there till 7th standard, there was no obesity because these children were playing a lot. After 8th standard, the obesity started rising a bit because after 8th, the pressure of studies was higher. The children would be attending a lot of classes and tuitions, and there would be hardly any time to play for the children. In the English medium school, however, as the children went to 8th or 9th standard, the time consumed by school, classes, and tuitions was so large that there was no time for the students to play at all. In their free time, what they were doing was watching the screen. It was more of television at that time. And along with this TV watching, they would be eating a lot of wrong foods. So the incidence of obesity was quite high in that class. This led me to thinking about what we can do to prevent this problem. We have seen in lockdown also that whenever we order food from outside, the incidence of obesity increases. I remember a very striking example of a couple from my society who are working in the corporate sector. Both of them are exercise conscious and they have been exercising regularly even before lockdown. But during lockdown, what I found was that both of them had reduced quite a lot of weight, almost 10 kilograms each. When I asked them the reason for this, they told me that their outside food consumption has almost completely stopped and they were having only homemade food, plus, of course, the exercise was continuing. So, this made a lot of difference to the calories that they were taking in. The excess calories were not there anymore, and that's why they had lost the weight. So in the food habits, what we must remember is home food is the best food. Any packaged food, any food ordered from restaurants, from outside, is going to contain a lot of fat, a lot of sugar, a lot of salt, and of course preservatives, and all this is going to add to the problem of obesity. So best is to avoid outside food, packaged food, bakery items, etc. Does that mean you have to stop them completely? No, it's not that way. Once in a while, if you want to have this, please go ahead and have it, enjoy it thoroughly, but don't make this an everyday affair. Please remember that if children are deprived of all these foods, at times they may have a craving for them. So you should not deprive them completely. Remember that the major portion of your intake should be homemade food. Even when you're cooking at home, it's better to avoid too much oil, too much sugar, and too much salt. Certain things which you have to avoid on a regular basis is bakery products like bread, pav, anything made from maida, biscuits, etc. Packaged foods, we already talked about that. So homemade foods, even if once in a while you have fried foods at home, it's okay. But fried foods from outside on a regular basis are not good for your health. So this is about food habits. Another thing which we find is in these days, in the modern times, with this competitive world, there is a lot of stress all around. And this stress sometimes has very funny effects on the appetite of people. I have seen that some people, when they are stressed out, tend to eat much less and they lose weight. But there are others, and quite a number of them, that they start eating more during stress. Whenever they are stressed out, they will start eating almost double the amount that they would otherwise eat. And most of this food comes from packaged foods. So please watch out for this. If this is happening to you, please try and manage your stress effectively. Another thing which we find is whenever children or even adults, I would say, they are watching a lot of screen. What do they tend to do? When they're watching movies, we have always seen movie theaters, you have a big bag of popcorns with you or some munchy objects. That happens even at home when they're watching movies or serials. And many times, the person who is eating it is not even aware of what is going inside his mouth. And they keep on and on eating until the show gets over. This is a very important cause of overeating, especially leading to obesity. So this is another thing that you need to watch out for.
Well, we talked about stress eating. Remember an important thing. Use exercise as a stress buster, not food. So it's all about the habits that we inculcate over a period of time. Haven't you heard this about a habit? If you remove the H from the word habit, a bit remains. If you remove A from the word, bit remains. If you remove the B, still it remains. Does it mean that habits are destiny? No. Habits are not destiny. A habit can be changed with conscious awareness. Therefore, please take care of your food habits which are faulty.
While we're talking about good food habits and good lifestyles, let me share my experiences in Japan, which I visited before the lockdown a couple of times. And there I hardly found any obese people. I started thinking about the cause for this, and then I realized a couple of things. Japanese people walk a lot. They predominantly use the public transport, hardly use private vehicles. And the other thing is that when they eat very small portions. If you go to a restaurant, you may find a big plate in which many big bowls are kept, but the portion in those bowls is a small one. So actually, you don't end up eating too much. That's why I think the Japanese don't put on too much weight. It's the combination of both. Not too much food plus a good amount of exercise. We will be talking more about obesity in our next session.